Trent, welcome to Now We Know. And please meet Jonathan. Jonathan, meet Trent.
Oh. Hey, long-time listener. What, fourth-time guest?
Well,
That's
you've
awesome.
been, an advocate of the podcast, both through Relatable as a listener and guest, and then as well as a listener of Now We Know. So this is the first time you get to be a guest, which we're really happy that you're here. So it's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So before we get into it, for those who maybe aren't familiar, Trent and I met on Clubhouse almost 3 years ago. It's kind of crazy. It's been that long.
Wow.
I know. I had to think about that too. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah, it's been almost 3 years. So we were in a room discussing Black gun ownership, and then that involved into podcast conversations on Relatable about gun ownership, and then the duality of Trent being a Black man in law enforcement. Over the course of the last 3 years, Trent and I have developed a friendship, bonding over the audacity of people, sharing enlightening podcasts, and having true hard discourse over several personal and real world topics. After the release of the Bass Reeves episode, come to find out, Trent is not only a law enforcement officer, but he too is a U.S. Marshal, as revealed when he hit me up. U.S. Deputy Marshal?
Correction. Okay, no. So I'm not a federal marshal. No, it's okay. It's okay. Oh. See, I have to explain this a lot to people. I'm not a federal marshal. I am a city and county marshal with a special dispensation to go throughout my state. What a marshal is, what makes a marshal different than, I'm sorry, but my cat is wanting attention. What makes a marshal different from other law enforcement is a police officer works typically for a chief of police who is hired by the town manager and the mayor. That's who they answer to. A sheriff's deputy is hired by a sheriff who typically, with a few exceptions, Denver being one of them, is elected by members of a county, the citizens of a county. A marshal, and this is very interesting, a marshal, every court, be it a municipal court, be it a county court, be it a federal court, every court has a marshal. That is the law enforcement arm of the judges. We answer to the judges. So city courts, municipal courts, typically they designate their marshal as the chief of police. And so the security in a municipal court is typically handled by the police department. Sometimes they have marshals, sometimes they don't. But literally my job is specifically enumerated as I serve warrants or capture fugitives for the court. I protect the judges and dignitaries as assigned. And there are the rare cases where I deliver mitamuses and other declarations from the court to people that are named. So literally, we are the arm, the strong arm of the judges.
Well, so that makes sense as to why the Bass Reeves episode resonated with you. Just maybe you're not the same kind of marshal, but you're both marshals.
Yes, I do exactly what Bass did. What makes a federal marshal different from the city and county marshals is that the federal marshal has the ability to go throughout the country to a certain extent, and also outside of the country. The difference is, what is it? I'm trying to remember. My daughter is actually studying for civics, constitutional law, and I'm trying to remember which of the amendments is the clause that basically whatever isn't controlled by the federal government is controlled by the states. And there's a thing of federal law enforcement officers do not automatically have jurisdiction inside of communities. And so U.S. Marshals will often deputize local officers in order to gain access to that jurisdiction and be able to operate. So the difference between me and a federal marshal is I'm limited to my city, county, state. Federal marshals are not.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I'm glad that you started with that, because that was my very first question, because there are a lot of terms that go around regarding law enforcement and the roles. And just like with corporate titles, I'm like, what does that mean? Like, please just tell me. So that's good. That clears it up.
Yeah, it's probably in all of law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement since 2009. I got into it late. I was in my mid 30s. I'm a firm believer that no law enforcement officer should go into the field before the age of 30. You don't have any life experience. You haven't had bills. You haven't, like a 21-year-old having the power of life and death, having the ability to take someone's freedom away from them. Just case in point, going to a domestic violence call. Two spouses are in an argument, and we're often asked to be disinterested parties, arbiters, if you will, and to say to a couple who's in an argument over finances, over relationships, what have you, to say to them that knee-jerk reaction, "Oh, I understand." What do you understand at 21? You don't understand anything. You haven't had a mortgage yet. You haven't had kids. You haven't struggled yet. So how can you identify with people going through something? So put that to the side. I think you should come to law enforcement late. I've been in law enforcement, 3 different agencies. And this is an interesting fact. Of the 3 agencies I've been at, the Marshals is the first time I had a chief who wasn't Black. And I'm in Colorado, which is 4% Black. So I was one of those rare Black police officers who had the chief executive of our police department was just like me. So it was a sense of identity, safety that I felt normally I wouldn't get. The Marshal's office, for me, has been the least soul taxing position in law enforcement I've ever held. There is a price you pay as a police officer. If you are a conscious person, if you are empathetic, there is a heavy toll you pay, because you are quite often, if not always, the person present at people's worst days in their lives. And there's a trauma that goes along with that. And so that energy gets fed into you, and then you go to the next call. And someone else's trauma is fed into you. Then you go to the next call, and on and on and on and on. And so you come home with that trauma, and you give that trauma to your family. If you don't intentionally and actively give it to them, you give it to them passively by being quiet and withdrawn and stressed and anxious. So with the Marshals, what makes it the least taxing for me is I'm not charging people with crimes. I'm not going in and trying to figure out who did what and why. My job is simply, just like Tommy Lee Jones in The Fugitive, I don't care. You have a warrant. Your guilt or innocence does not matter to me. The judge wants to see you, and my job is to get you to the judge, period. I'm not responsible for why you have this case. I didn't charge you with it. I literally do not care. My job is to execute this warrant. And that takes about 75% of the stress off my shoulder.
Is at that point you're more of like, trying to get them in because there's enough reason to likely that they've committed a crime or whatever, and you just need to physically bring them in versus trying to get enough evidence or like enough maybe like notations down to say like what actually happened here?
Oh no, it's not even that. It's literally a thing of, so most of my warrants are FTA, FTC, which stands for failure to comply or failure to appear. So you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Regardless of your guilt or innocence, you're in the court's hands now. And you didn't appear when you were supposed to appear, or you didn't comply with an order from the judge. That's it. That's my job. You didn't show up, so I got to go get you. You didn't do what the judge told you to do, so I got to go get you. And then I bring you to the jail. You see the judge the next day. My hands are clean. I don't have to testify. I don't have to present evidence. It's literally in the Colorado state statutes, and most cities, counties, states have a similar statute. It's called fugitive from justice. That's it. That's my law that I operate with. So it used to be we had some discretion where we could overlook certain things because our job was to get you to comply with the court.
While this is our first time venturing into a completely visual medium,
we have an entire archive of podcast episodes that you can listen to.
Search Now We Know on whichever podcast streaming platform you use.
Start from the beginning, hear the evolution, and come back here to let us know what you learned.
We want to have fruitful conversations, not just amongst ourselves, but with you, the listeners.
Watch, like, comment, share, subscribe, do all the things.
This helps us spread the word to reach viewers and listeners just like you.
We're so grateful you're here. Thank you.
And we had that carrot, it's like, hey, I'm not going to say I saw what you're doing. I'm just here for the warrant. So if you come along quietly, I'll ignore everything else I saw. Unintended consequences of George Floyd in Colorado, House Bill 217, we all have to wear body cameras now. And so now everything I see, I have to do something about it. So now if you're violating a restraining order, living with the victim because you two get along, y'all just had a spat and you're trying to get past this and you need the income, all this. Now I'm like, dude, it's on video. You're with the victim. You got a new charge. If you got drugs on you, when I put the handcuffs on you, it used to be if you had drugs on you when I put the handcuffs on you, I could dispose of them. I can destroy them, not to charge you with any crime. I just got you for being a fugitive. Now it's on body camera. You got to get charged. So unintended consequences.
Huh.
Well, I was actually going to ask, and maybe this is a little premature for the conversation, but I was going to ask you about, you started in law enforcement in 2009. I'd like to know what inspired you to make that decision, but then I'd also want to know what are the differences that you've seen or experienced pre-2020, post-2020?
Okay. So, in all honesty, nothing's changed. I got into law enforcement because I'm a believer in the idea that if you want to change something, you got to do it from the inside. Otherwise, the only change you get is cosmetic. They'll do enough to get you to back off. Having been inside the system for as long as I have, I can tell you it is literally designed to resist change. Period. Point blank. People talk about wanting to fix the criminal justice system. I am a firm believer the only way to fix the problems that are within it are to completely scrap it and build it brand new from scratch. How do you remove racism and sexism and elitism from laws with amendments? It's baked into the creation of it. Our vagrancy laws are from the Black codes, where the vigor and the vitriol and the venom that is used to police the homeless, it all comes from Reconstruction. When they freed our ancestors from enslavement, they immediately criminalized us in order to put us back into the system. 13th Amendment. My daughter, during her civics lessons, like, 13th Amendment abolished slavery. I'm like, no, it didn't. It abolished slavery except as punishment. So slavery
another
still
cosmetic
exists.
Change.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the only way to fix this stuff isn't slap another Band-Aid on it. It's completely scrap it and build just, fair, inclusive laws from the start. So come 2020, and people are talking about defund the police or abolish the police. And I say to people, what are you going to do when you defund the police? Okay, you still want law enforcement. How are you going to enforce the law? Abolish the police. Again, you still want law enforcement. How are you going to enforce the law? Because the people enforcing the law are only one piece. the laws that they are enforcing, that's the real problem. What we consider crime. Is it criminal to shoplift food because you're hungry? We enforce that like crazy. Is it criminal to impoverish your employees to the point where they are on social and public assistance while you're making record profits? Which is a bigger crime? And which one do we spend more time enforcing?
Yeah.
So our concept of crime, our concept of justice is warped. And no matter how many amendments, no matter how many House bills that we put in trying to change policing, it's still enforcing laws that were designed for a specific purpose. Understand the purpose, and then you'll start figuring out what the real problem is. So, yeah.
I was trying to find, I cannot remember what podcast I was listening to. I was trying to scroll really quick to find it, but they discussed this specifically. Trent, actually, I wonder if it's one that you sent me.
Is it Behind the Bastards or Behind the Police?
No. So, actually,
Jonathan,
Case
I'll say
Against
this to you
Harm
while Donna's
Reduction.
looking for it. Oh, yes, that one.
Was that the one where they discuss the like community policing? Or does that sound familiar? Well, my point being, there was a podcast episode where one of the actually, you might have sent it to me. We'll have to figure out the name. You might recall it, but where they were interviewing a woman who lives maybe in Brooklyn or something, kind of like using your local community members to help instead of law enforcement. Because as we've talked about on some real relatable episodes where you have law enforcement who is enforcing laws and patrolling in certain areas and they don't even live nearby. They have no community connection outside of working there. And so when you bring community members and to sort of help and maybe mitigate whatever situations. I don't know the degree. I can't imagine that they're, jumping in on maybe really dangerous situations, but maybe some smaller things and to try and stop it there as a collective instead of bringing in law enforcement that doesn't have, maybe that same resonance with like emotionally or being part of the community as law enforcement might, or as locals would, excuse me.
No, okay. Community policing, there's community policing as it's commonly thought of in law enforcement, and there's the community policing that you just described. Those are two different things. I'm going to bake your noodle with a couple of things here. One, Denver is doing something called the STAR program. And with it, what they're doing is certain types of calls, instead of sending police, they are sending a mental health clinician and an emergency medical technician with the idea of keep the cops out of it as much as possible and see if, it's a need for services other than law enforcement. So they started a pilot program after 2020 and it started with one vehicle Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 a.m. And now I think in some instances there's as many as 4 vehicles running. So that's an idea kind of along that lines of it not being police directly involved. Here's the noodle bake. There used to be a lot of community policing. I'd even say go back 50, 60 years, there used to be a lot of community policing the way you describe it. They're called gangs. Oh. Gangs came into existence, literally gangs came into existence as community protection. That's how they got started. That's how all the gangs, be it the mob, be it the Crips and Bloods, be it the disciples, the gangster disciples, all of them, they started as literally community policing, protect our own. The problem is, we've seen this with politics, We've seen this with city government. We've seen this with anything. Power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. You give people access to power, and the inclination is to first protect that power, second, increase that power. And rarely does it help us more than it hurts us. I am literally all for people doing everything they can safely before calling 911. In fact, most of the calls to 911 shouldn't go to 911. They should go to the non-emergency number. But what people consider an emergency versus what's actually an emergency are two different things. What people will call for, I literally dealt with calls, my kid won't come home from their friend's house.
Oh,
so you're
God.
calling the police? The vast majority of police action is responding to calls to service. What I mean is this. I don't come knock on your door and ask you, hey, any crimes going on in here? Instead, I came to your house because either you called, someone in your house called, or a neighbor called. So I'm sticking my nose in your business because somebody asked me to stick my nose in your business. Okay? Now, I'm not saying cops never get nosy. Cops never proactively or pretext. I'm not saying none of that happens. I'm saying the vast majority of your calls are cops responding to a call for service. Here's the kicker. If you don't call us, more than likely we don't come. So what are you calling us for? This is that concept, again, that comes from the Black codes. Karens love 911. They love to police other people's lives. We'll call them Karens because that's shorthand. That works. Okay. Yeah. You understand when I say Karen, you know exactly what I'm talking about. We're not talking necessarily about Karen and Ken, Patty, Becky, whoever.
And Carl too.
I wonder if it's going to be used enough in this context that it'll get added to like the dictionary. You know how some words have been added because of their use.
And allyship and community policing and all of that. You really have to look at the motives of people. What is it you're trying to accomplish? Okay? Because of our capitalistic mindset, our mindset, our inability to empathize with others, our inability to put others before ourselves. Community policing, it sounds great, but there's still potential for harm unless we vigilantly fight that desire to shore up and increase power. That's my response. Long way around, but that's my response.
That's a lot to chew on.
Yeah. And this is a thing for me, working in law enforcement. This is probably my greatest angst because I sit and I think about it. And I told Donna this a long time ago. The reason why I became a police officer primarily was quite selfish, even though it doesn't sound like it in the beginning. I became a police officer because I was afraid of the police. And I believe the best way to remove the power of fear is to immerse yourself in it so you're no longer afraid of it. That's the only way to stop it. Otherwise, you're trying to protect yourself from it with stopgaps. But if you immerse yourself, if you inoculate yourself in it to where that fear is gone because you understand it inside and out, you're free. You're free from that fear. I went into the police academy and I became indoctrinated. Things that I didn't know exist, fears that I never had before, all of a sudden are heaped upon me because I remember this from Blade where he grabs the sister because she let a vampire go or a familiar go. And he goes, you exist in this candy-coated world. There's real things going on. And literally that's what happened to me. I was a police officer for a year. And I left because I almost lost my family over it because it changed me. And then the time that I was away from it, I couldn't unsee what I saw. I didn't know about sovereign citizens before that. I didn't know all these different type of criminal gangs that existed. Like, Donna, you send me those decals on the back of vehicles.
Mm-hmm.
And I can tell you what they mean because I literally have access to a database of all those things. I was telling you, like, hey, you see that? You see those 3 columns, that 3%?
Yeah.
Watch out. And this was before January 6th.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so we had been watching that stuff in law enforcement for years. So having access to that, having the authority, having the power, having the backup, oh, it's seductive. It's so seductive. I call it golden handcuffs. You probably heard that term before. But the idea being something that's so lucrative or so beneficial, even though you don't want to do it anymore, you feel compelled to do it because you don't want to give up those benefits. That's law enforcement for me. I want to get out. I want to stop doing it. But it means I lose access. It means I lose authority. It means I become vulnerable. I'm a normal citizen again. And you ask most cops, they don't want to do that. They don't want to do the job anymore, but they don't want to go back to being Clark Kent.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So
how do you ground yourself when you're in that space of learning all these awful things and being exposed to all these real life terrors of the world? And how do you ground yourself and say, I'm going to keep going in this career path and I'm going to hold on to my original mission statement, which is I want to change things from the inside, though maybe hope is a little bit fleeting because you've learned a little too much?
I no longer hope to change things. I have a couple of positions on that, but I'll say first, one of the ways that I hold on to it is I find people like Donna. I went on Clubhouse trying to find people to talk to that I felt I could trust, bearing my soul and not immediately be judged as a traitor for being at the top. Out of that entire group, I think there was like 6 of us. Phil, Natasha, Austin. I'm trying to remember all the names.
Sosa.
But Donna, yeah. But Donna's the one that I still talk to on a regular basis. Donna's heard me go through my just jaded diatribes where I just nothing's going to change. But talking to Donna helps me stay hopeful. Being in a position where, and this is the other thing, a close friend of mine that I grew up with, he literally said to me, he's like, dude, you're in there. You're in there. Get that info, get that skill set, get that training, and bring it back to us. Also, if you leave, what they're going to replace you with? When your black ass is gone, what they're going to replace you with? Highly unlikely it'll be another black person. So you hold that position, bro. You do what you got to do. Even if you only have a minuscule impact, they think twice because you're there. Mm-hmm. That's an impact. I literally had the opportunity to save a brother who had shot someone. We got involved because we go all throughout the city and county. Sometimes we're in areas where there is less of a police presence and something goes on and they need extra people. So we're able to fold in and assist the locals. And there was a shooting and the guy ran to another location and we were able to help set up a perimeter on that location. And so I'm on the perimeter. We're there for like 90 minutes and they're finally able to get the guy. They get handcuffs on him. And it's a brother, and he is amped. He is going crazy. He is just agitated, just uncontrollable. And I was able to literally, sincerely, with love in my heart, tell him, it's like, hey, bro, I'm here. I'm not going to let nothing happen to you. I'm not going to let them do anything to you. Just calm down, breathe with me for a moment. I put my hand on him, and I said, nobody else is touching you. And everybody knew immediately, take their hands off of him. And so it was one black man with another black man calmly talking. And I talked that brother down. And for me, that small thing, it meant the world to me, because with his actions, the way he was amping up, it was entirely likely that it was going to get really physical. He was going to get injured. Lawsuits were going to be filed. So I saved all those other law enforcement officers that were there in my action. But really, I was acting to save that man. I wanted him to know, dude, what you're doing, it's only going to end bad. I'm here. I got your back. You did wrong. You're going to get handled for it. But I'm going to make sure you don't get mishandled. And that, for me, meant the world in comparison to all the other things that I've dealt with. So if I have one of those in my entire career of law enforcement, that's a success.
It makes it all worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you think about it, Donna, if you could save one person from going through a tragedy, how long would you stick with whatever it is you're doing to try to save people?
I'd keep doing it. In a very different scale, I've definitely noticed that from, the real relatable episodes that I've put out, and especially with like my own traumas on various levels. And people have reached out to me who are like, thank you so much, and then share their story. And I don't know, it's like you can't really put a value on it, because it's just an incredible feeling. To be able to have helped someone, and just by like doing what you're doing, without any like real expectation from it. So yeah, it's resonated with me really nicely, to keep sharing and to keep doing those things. Granted, I haven't done a real relatable episode in a minute, but that's okay. We'll get to it when I get there.
Where you been?
I know. I've been thinking about sharing more detail about, I guess to this front, the legal process of what my sexual trauma that happened last year, and the abysmal effort of BPD and da-da-da. So I've passively thought about it, but I haven't gotten into it.
Right. That conversation that you and I had about all of that, being able to, in a small way, help you in whatever way that I could with that. Like when I was saying to you about, here is how the police typically think. This is how they operate. And most people don't understand how, the police officer, based upon the initial report they take, can color how a prosecutor looks at a case and whether or not they move forward with the charge. It all starts with that first officer and their bias, but then it's compounded by the bias of the prosecutor, because an officer isn't going to, how do I put this? An officer is not going to pursue a case that they feel the prosecutor isn't going to.
But it's not
prosecute.
the officer's job to decide what the prosecutor is going to prosecute. The officer's job is to get the information and go by the law and all of that.
Correct.
It's a whole other story for another time.
Correct.
But I want to get back to Boundaries really quick, because after that last episode, when you called me and we were talking about like what resonated with you in terms of that duality of being Black and being law enforcement, just like Bass Reeves, and some of the things that he would do, to get into a fugitive or to find them and all of that. And so there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about. But first, what were you so fired up about during that? Because it was the episode and it was the day. And I think the episode didn't fire you up, but there was something that happened that day or within the couple weeks before that really just kind of led up to this. I'm frustrated. This is what I really dislike about being Black in the space of law enforcement during this specific time.
Well, there's many things. I mean, I'm trying to remember what was going on that one particular day. But so often, as a Black police officer, and this, I think I mentioned this to you in talking about Bass Reeves, it's the thing of, what am I first? Am I a cop that's Black, or am I a Black cop? And sometimes it doesn't matter because the impact is still the same. I know this seems like a diversion, but it's still a point. When cops get upset because people flip them the bird or get angry with a cop when they're on scene, it's like, hey, I'm a human too. It's like, no. You in uniform represent the power of the city, of the county, of the state, of the government. You don't exist. Your power is present. And so that is what they're reacting to. They're reacting to that authority interfering in their lives. And you're taking it personal. And you would take it personal if somebody else did it to you. So let go, get your ego out of the way. So there's that. As a Black cop, I think I brought it up specifically with Bass Reeves and his son. Which was he trying to do? When he arrested his son for murder or apprehended his son, was he trying to save his son? Or was he trying to prove to the establishment that gave him power that he was a company man? Which one was it? Was he trying to protect his son because another marshal might just shoot him and kill him? Or was he trying to show the bosses, hey, I was a good boy. Thank you for my power. And having to constantly, in my mind, work through that. Even with my own power, I said it earlier, power corrupts. Driving to work, I drive to work at like 4:00 in the morning. And driving in, people typically don't follow the speed limit. Okay? You're on a highway, it's 4:00 in the morning. Why do the speed limit? There's not so many people there. I can go a little bit faster. Well, my rule is this. As long as you don't go a ridiculous speed.
What's ridiculous? It's all subject to opinion.
15 miles over the speed limit is starting to get ridiculous. When I was a street cop, my rule was 13, unlucky 13, unless it was a school zone. So if you did 10 miles over the speed limit, I typically left you alone, unless it was you were weaving in and out of traffic. Once you hit 13, I had to pull you over and talk to you.
I've been pulled over twice going 7 over.
You're doing too much.
Going 42 and a 35. And they didn't give me a ticket though, so I'll give them that.
We have a department here that does 1 over.
But that was the thing.
A stretch. It's just one stretch of street. I don't know what caused it, but it's a 1 over, and everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I can probably tell you, Jonathan, the reason why they enforce that one so vehemently is they probably have somebody that lives along that stretch that complains a lot. And the chief is like, look, I'm tired of the mayor and the city council being on my butt. So y'all, zero tolerance on that street. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. Cops are not going to enforce, going back to the prosecutor as well, cops are not going to enforce things that the public don't have a big outcry on. So for me, going back to your question, what was really getting to me was seeing in the news the number of Black police chiefs that seem to be presiding over. Can we curse on this podcast?
Yeah.
Okay. Fuckery. Absolutely fuckery. Yeah. Like, and I think I've told you this before, Donna. A police chief is just a figurehead. That's it. A police chief can come in with a philosophy and with a policy. It does not matter. What truly matters is the sergeants and the street officers. Okay? So unless the sergeants, the actual direct supervisors, buy into what the command staff is talking about, the command staff could be talking about pie in the sky, could be selling Willy Wonka gold tickets. It doesn't matter because the supervisors dictate what the officers are actually doing. Mm-hmm. And anything the supervisors don't want the officers doing, the officers won't do because the supervisors can get them hemmed up. So changing a police chief doesn't change the sergeants unless a community has the stomach, an administration has the stomach to deal with a chief coming in and wiping away all the sergeants that are a problem. But we have police unions that protect that.
I was about to say, what unions letting that happen?
Right. And so coming back to Bass Reeves, looking at Bass Reeves was my, I don't want to say my spirit animal. Bass Reeves, I identify with so much. Yes. My family is from Oklahoma. My family is from, I don't like to say this publicly because I got a beef with them, but my family is Cherokee Freeman. We are literally on the Dawes Road. So federally recognized members of the Cherokee Freeman until they kicked us out because, that money started coming around and the Cherokee Nation was like, no, we don't need to be sharing the money. Okay. So my family is from the territory of Bass Reeves. I don't think we were related at all, but I identified with him on that. I thought he was a good man fighting a good fight. But with my own experience, I can recognize the seduction of power, the desire to be, as Black people, we're always told by our parents, you got to be twice as good to get half the credit. I'm looking at Bass, especially in the light that you were showing me some things that I didn't know about, and it shined a mirror on me. And it really dug into my soul yet again. Depending on the day, I'm battling whether or not I'm causing more harm or a force for good. Mm. And looking at Bass Reeves is a reminder of that. Even the best intentions, a time will come. Are you going to turn your own son in? Mm-hmm. How much do you believe in the law? Because the law, like the Bible, it ain't perfect. The Bible is man's interpretation of God's word. The law is man's interpretation of justice. And I'm supposed to go out there and actively enforce it. I'm snatching people up on these warrants. And with no regard, I had to do this the other day. Snatched the guy up. He'd gone into his probation office. He had a warrant in another jurisdiction. Had to snatch him up. He's going into jail. It was an execution warrant. What that means is automatic days in jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect $100. You got X number of days in jail. Well, he drove in to the probation office. His car is parked on the street. He's asked, he doesn't have anybody to move his car. And so he's like, what can I do? I don't have anybody, but is my car going to get towed? And my partner's like, no, your car's not going to get towed. Your car's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. And I look at my partner, I'm like, got an execution warrant. And the partner goes, whew. And so we automatically know, that car is getting towed. Mm-hmm. Depending on how many days you're in jail, the amount of money you're going to have to pay to get that car. Ooh. And if you can't pay that money in a certain time, that car is going to get sold in an auction. Ooh.
Yeah,
the criminal justice system.
Yeah.
And if you have children, then good luck getting them to school. All these things.
Yeah. If you drive to your job, because so often a good paying job isn't going to be in the neighborhood where you can afford to live. Mm-hmm. Just your life, yeah. And I'm involved in that.
Yeah. If you were in Bass Reeves' shoes back in the 1800s, late 1800s, and we had talked about Plessy versus Ferguson and all of these rulings that had come out, and I'd be curious to know, how do you think you would have felt, or how do you think Bass Reeves felt like where was his alliance between being a Black man or being a law enforcement officer? Because I think that you guys have joined for two different reasons. If I could just assume, I think there was more influence from the people who owned Bass Reeves, who enslaved him. And then he was so close to them and they had, government ties and he had interest there, versus your reason for joining is like, hold on, y'all scare me. You know what I mean? It seems different to me.
But remember, Bass ran after assaulting his enslaver.
Mm-hmm.
So having that badge was kind of a protection from what could be waiting for him for what he did. So maybe we did join for the same reasons. For me, when I look at Bass and I think about the circumstances, it isn't so much of thinking about it as a Black man or law enforcement. It's thinking as a man and thinking as a Black man. As a man, as human beings, our number one directive is self-preservation. Food, clothing, shelter, protection. That's our number one motivator. So I can't blame a person for wanting access to power, authority, steady income. I can't blame them for wanting it. As a Black man in this country during Reconstruction, seeing the eventual creation of the Black codes and being a part of the system that further sought to keep us enslaved, I don't know that I could say no to being a marshal, and I don't know that I could say yes. I know why I did it under these current circumstances, but in that time, I can't blame any Black person. The difference between us and people like Medgar Evers, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, is they were willing to suffer for the rest of us. How many of us are willing to suffer for everyone else?
Mm.
And so I look at Bass and I'm going, that opportunity to suffer a little bit less, I can't knock you for taking it. I can't knock you.
Yeah.
I want to be mad at you for exploiting the access given to you by the indigenous peoples, them teaching you their language, teaching you their culture, and then you using it to pursue who you are told are criminals.
Yeah.
You said, that movie coming out, what is it? The Flower Moon movie, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Killers of the Flower Moon. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Dealing with the Osage Nation and the way they were literally slaughtered to get access to their oil. Okay. That's Oklahoma. Okay. That's after Bass, but that's the area that he was in. Those are the ancestors of people he was dealing with. That mindset of remember, Bass Reeves was a marshal when it wasn't a state. It was the Oklahoma Territory. Bass was used in part to soften up the territory for statehood, to bring this wild outlaw place to heal so it could become a state.
Yeah.
That's what Bass was used for.
Yeah.
So
but then again, it's like, what option did he have? Well, back to what you were saying, I just don't think that he really had a plausible option for life at all. It was either he was going to remain, in so many words, kind of captive by someone. And so his captivity ended up being work. But I do think, like, in correlation to that, with your entry into the law enforcement, there are differences just because of social context. And so how do you respond to people who do criticize you for entering as an adult, having lived life and understood what the relationship between police and Black people, especially Black men, are? Like, how do you navigate those conversations?
I don't have the conversation with anybody who doesn't have the ability to converse in nuance. Because I can own my contradictions. I can own my ego, I can own my self-servitude. I can own it. I can recognize it. I can admit it. At the same time, the people who are accusing me or criticizing me or judging me, I want to see that they can critically think and see the nuance and understand where they might do the same. Like, as I mentioned earlier, conversations I had during the George Floyd case, conversations I had with people who claim to be allies, and they were like, what can we do to fix this country, and so on and so forth. And in that same conversation, they would talk about how wondrous the founding fathers were with their Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And I would break it down for them, and I'm like, they are white supremacists. They created a document that entrenched white supremacy. See how myopic you are? You're asking me as a cop what I can do to change things, and you're still keeping and upholding the system that created everything that's going on right now. So if you're criticizing me, do you have the ability to critically think and look in the mirror and see what is your beef with what I'm doing? Because I know why I have beef with what I'm doing. I'm in it. What's your beef? That's it. I am not above criticism. I am not flawless. But before you come at me to point out my flaws, recognize your own and see where they may be influencing what you have to say. Because, I believe people who hurt other people need to be dealt with. Getting rid of police isn't going to solve that problem. Changing what we police and how we police, that'll change it. So where's your beef? Is it you just don't like them guys having the power? Or do you recognize the power as it exists is absolutely corrupt at the root? We need to uproot that tree, send it through a wood chipper, and start over. And include everybody, even the people you don't like. They got to be included. Otherwise,
they're here.
Yeah. Otherwise, what you want is tribalism. Otherwise, what you want is you want your tribe in charge. And that's what we see in places like Atlanta, with Black people in power and still creating top city. But you see what I'm talking about? You see what I'm talking about? Like literally Wakanda, as we like to call it. Black people in power and still doing the same thing to their own. So what's the problem? Is the problem white people in power, or is the problem power? There we go.
Yeah, we'll talk Eric Adams another time as well.
I have one more question. So we know that Bast used some interesting tactics to bring in fugitives and using some amount of manipulation or coercion to serve the warrants. So what's the most strategic way you have served a warrant or gained access to a fugitive to bring them in?
Just so you know, I'm already thinking full wig, disguise, it's special effects makeup.
We got a couple of guys. We got a couple of guys that actually like to do get-ups. They've got one of them used to work for one of the package delivery services and still had some of his gear. So he will put on that gear sometimes. Another one had some construction worker gear and they've done that.
Okay, this kind of sounds like a party I go to.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, see, my thing is, and this is where the self-loathing comes in. When I get a case that is a non-white person, there have been times when if I feel like I have a rapport with folks, I don't like to do this in front of my coworkers, but you know how we code switch. You know how, there's the version of us when we're talking at work, and then there's the version when we, among our people.
Yeah.
And I have not so much used subterfuge, but I've drop the R's and the G's off the end of words, relaxed a little bit, spoken to my people. Like there was a mother of a fugitive who was from St. Louis. And my people, I was raised in Missouri. And so I know parts of the Lou. And so I was like, hey, maybe my people know your people. And maybe as people, we can get your son to understand he need to come in. And so relying on my black card a little bit. And later on, I feel dirty because, of course, coworkers ain't got no chill. Next thing you know, hey, why don't you do that black card thing again? What? As soon as you let them see something, they feel like they have access to it. You're like, nah.
They're like, I'm going to pick up the Trent gun and shoot it now.
Yeah. Like, no.
That's tough.
No. So, yeah. Because you let them see behind the curtain and they don't know how to act.
Could you just be a little bit more ethnic?
Yeah. Like literally, you know my side business, Donna. So without putting all my business out there, I literally had the guys at work trying to convince me to use my side business to help capture a couple of fugitives. And I'm like, ain't no way I'm taking my personal business that's away from here and involving it here so that then these folks can feel some type of way. And I'm still out there in the community trying to do business and they're going to come back on top of my business. No, man, no. But they think, well, you're a cop. You're always a cop. So we should have access to all of you. I'm like, oh, hell no. Well, why don't you use your daughter's social media to see if you can find this guy? What? So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so tough. There's so much nuance and like there's so many questions. I have so many questions.
Oh, anytime. Hey, Jonathan, I'll give you my number after this and you can anytime. Just hit me up.
Because there are so many stories in the news, and it's no secret that I have an aversion. Just because I'm Black, I'm queer, there's no reason for me to like the police. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
But my biggest questions are about the relations within the break room. For instance, like your relationship with the other officers and how that has evolved over the years, especially with 2020, 2016, coming up on an election year, like all these things. It feels like there's a mindfuck in there. And there are individual missions going on in there. And all that comes together in one uniform. So it looks like that's what the mission is for the uniform. You know what I'm saying? Though we understand we're having a conversation that's not the case, but it certainly feels like and looks like, and on a large scale is believed to be these guys, this uniform means this one thing, especially to certain types of people. So it's just, there's just a lot going on. And
I am the only one. Yeah. So short answer is, and this ain't short, I am the only one in my department who is not a Trump supporter. I am the only one in my department who is not a white male. I literally have to sit. Case in point, last week, I have to sit and listen to the Fox News, Newsmax, One American News talking points as they sit around and discuss wanting to throw Nancy Pelosi in jail, wanting to throw Joe Biden in jail, on and on and on and on. And I still have to trust these guys to have my back going through a door. One day, I live in Colorado. Why is Colorado in the news lately?
What's in Colorado? I'm not sure.
Deion Sanders. You want to make white guys mad? Have a loud, confident Black man taking up all the media space. And don't let them be successful at it too. I had a huge argument with the guys in the office over, in part because of Deion Sanders, name, image, and likeness, NIL, NCAA. Students getting paid. And these guys, these American freedom fighters, these conservatives, keep the government out of my business, feel that college students shouldn't get paid, even though coaches are getting paid millions of dollars off the backs of these athletes. These students shouldn't get paid because it corrupts the sport, and they're getting an education and all this. And I'm like, you guys complain about the size of your paycheck. Imagine if you weren't being paid, but the chief was. Stop it. Stop it. I called out their hypocrisy. And I realized what I was doing in the argument I had with them is I was taking all of the energy from all those other conversations, those political conversations I couldn't have, and I was throwing it into this one thing. And I was literally shaking from the adrenaline because I had had enough. But this was the one thing I could talk about safely. Mm-hmm. So it is constant stress. It is knowing I'm being watched. It is, you want to talk about microaggressions in your civilian positions? We're talking about microaggressions with people that have guns. You know, I literally had a coworker, thank God he's left. I literally had a coworker who would come over to me and tell me stories about the black guy he worked with at another agency that would let him use the N-words. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I want to punch you in your mouth, but I can't say nothing because y'all outnumber me 7-1. I'll really want to call you every name in the book, but it'll probably blow back on me harder than it will on you. Yeah. So I got to sit here quietly, and this is, Donna, this is what makes me think about Bass Reeves. I have to sit here quietly and chew on the idea that if I say nothing, am I encouraging it by my silence? If I say something, am I taking the bait, the trap, so you can get me up out of here faster? Which one do I do?
Yeah. Because they'd probably just hold it against you if you said something, even if you just said, you know what, that makes me uncomfortable, you know, and then, yeah, I've actually been in a similar situation like that where someone gave someone else a pass and I was like, you know, I don't want to hear you say that. And that makes me uncomfortable. And it's bizarre to me.
Right. Yeah. Well, as soon as you say something, you have now identified yourself as a fly in the ointment. And what do you do with a fly in the ointment? You remove it. Mm-hmm. You may not aggressively, violently remove it, but you might work around it. And so now they don't speak so freely around me. So now I don't know everything that they're doing. Mm. So that fear, you know, I'm told all the time, oh, you're paranoid. I'm like, am I paranoid or am I prepared? Yeah. Because if I anticipate what's going on, if I know what you're capable of and I'm looking out for it, you call that paranoia and I call that preparation.
Yeah. Hello. To be a black man in America, there's a certain level of paranoia that's just base level existing. You have no choice.
Right.
But, you know. Right.
Well, Donna as a woman knows dealing with men. Yeah. With men, you have to have a certain level of paranoia. Because we be with the shits.
Right.
Every article of clothing you put on has to be calculated. The way you walk down the street, what street you walk down on, just because men are off.
Things that I say or whatever. Yeah. All of it.
All the things. I'm so glad that we got into conversations about intersectionality, because we could go on a whole tangent about that too. Mm-hmm. But especially just bringing it back to Bass and your own experience. Just, you mentioned it before and we mentioned it on the original podcast, just looking at who he is, what he means in the scope of history and law enforcement, not paying attention to nuance, not paying attention to different intersections of situations is not going to be useful when we're looking at what we're expecting from people in law enforcement, what we're expecting from forward movement for progression. Like, we cannot be black and white about things. And I'm glad that we got into a little bit of what that looks like, at least on a modern level, you know.
Yeah, me too.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, and thanks for coming on with us, Trent.
No problem. Like I said to you, anytime. Let me
Except
know
on your
if I'm
birthday.
available.
Because
yeah. And okay.
Did the episode come out on your birthday?
No, we were just recording on it.
Oh, we were talking on your. Oh, yes, that's right.
Yeah. And it was my 50th.
Oh,
so
happy belated!
A major birthday. Thank you.
Yeah.
So 50 trips around the sun, and I'm still feeling like I don't know a damn thing. So I have to say to both of you, thank you for doing what you do, because like literally there are times when I feel like I don't want to learn anything new, but the fact that you guys are there in real time, taking the time to dig into things, learn yourselves, and then to share it. You know, that's really special for people like myself. And I know, Donna, you can identify with this. We in some of the whitest spaces, and to have, there's a friend of mine who does another podcast. I won't say the name here because I'm not going to pump somebody else's podcast. But I said, you guys got me through the pandemic because I was able to still connect and relate to my people. Even if I wasn't actively involved, I could hear your voices, hear your discussions, and feel like I was present. So keep on doing what you're doing. It's appreciated. There are more. Your name will be spoken in rooms that you will never enter because people are listening to you and you are touching them. So keep on doing what you're doing, please.
Oh,
thank you, Trent. Appreciate that.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. You enjoy the rest of your day. And
I'm about to go do something that's highly problematic, and that is watch some football.
Oh,
okay. Well, go enjoy the NFL. And it was nice meeting you and good talking to you.
Nice meeting you as well.
All right. See you, Trent.
Bye.
Bye.